Fetu Injani. My name is Samuel Omnisi and I'm back with another video. First I'd like to thank God, that I'm alive. That's the most important thing. To live to fight another day. The good fight of faith. Now someone will be asking, what is the good fight of faith? Don't know how I'll explain. It simply means, really us getting back to the God's program, believing in God that He will fight all of our battles. Now that's where many of us get it wrong. God fighting our battles. That doesn't mean now we must chill and do nothing. No, we need to fight alongside with God. How? By changing our conduct, lifestyle, not looking at the next person really, but looking at ourselves, because that's how the devil does, works rather, by moving away, the focus away from him, because I coward, you know what I mean? Like for an example, when you're in a relationship and you think and your boyfriend is abusing you and you think you're the problem. That's how the devil wants you to look at things, not to look at him, rather look at yourself, and blame yourself that you're the problem, you know what I mean? You're getting abused because of you're the problem. No, we're all victims, you know what I'm saying? So, and by the way, I'm not an expert, guys, so I'm trying to share this, at the best of my ability, based on my experiences. So getting back to the examples, we blame ourselves sometimes, and in thinking that we are the problems, and in actual fact, we are the victims, and also that itself creates traumas, So we're gonna talk more about, about traumas, just now. So, when you like last time we talked about mama structures, right? We see they create traumas. They create these traumas, you not having your parents in your life, and really because remember guys, trauma it when I would say we feel powerless, when I would feel disconnected to God, and that's where the devil wants you to be, So for me, I'm here to really to make awareness and really asking us guys to really fight the good fight of faith, because your colleague is not your enemy, that you're fighting with. Your friend is not your enemy, etc. So I'm gonna share my experience, and how to really avoid some of the traumas, I grew up in a single parent household, and there's a structure the soul is there to, like I explained in my last video, to create the trauma, you know, because you know, it's a trauma, you know, itself, you know what I mean? So I grew up under that, you know, under a single parent household, you know, and you know, I'll be asking about my dad, you know, why me ngana babe, and my friend, you know, you know what I mean? So as a kid, that, you know, creates trauma, you know, you growing up, you know, how you're going to be, you know, when you grow up, you know. So I'm here to really like show you how you can, you know, avoid and also to deal with that trauma, you know. So what I did is that, of course, like, you know, I would ask about my dad, you know, to my mom. And you know how moms are, you know, they will try to protect you, you know, so that you don't feel, you know, sad, you know, you don't feel that there's something wrong with you. And, you know, they'll try to, like, you know, cover up, you know, and say, nah, you know, everything is okay, I'm here, you know. The kulisa, like, you know, ngendlela lekungiyo, and not realizing, see, like, you know, but I cannot blame them as well, because like I said, you know, my last video, you know, they're also victims, you know what I'm saying? So with me, like, I really, like, I didn't let that slide, you know. I really wanted answers, and also to find out, you know, about my father more. Good to, like, why he couldn't be in the army, and etc., you know. And I kept pushing, you know what I mean? I kept pushing. I remember, like, you know, going to meet my dad for the first time in a long time, you know, because when he used to come, and, you know, like I explained in my last video, you know, my dad, like, you know, was there, you know, at my younger age, you know, and then you know. So I went looking for him, but I was still young, you know, because I was in my, how old was I? I think I was 12 years, you know, 11, 12, somewhere there. Because I went looking for answers, you know, and my mom, like, you know, so I went behind my mom, like I explained in my last video, you know. So to cut the long story short, I realized, you know, my dad is not in my life, not because of young Zonda, or I'm not his child, or anything like that. Nah, he's just going through, he's also a victim, you know. He's going through some, you know, I don't know what he's going through, but I could tell, like, he's, you know, he's going through something, you know. But of course, not an excuse, but I understood that he loved me, you know, at the end of the day. Just indlela yakhe kumkhombisa ukuthi uyangithanda, and, you know, it's different and strange, and, you know. So for me, I understood that he's not my enemy, you know. The devil is my enemy, you know what I mean? Because through that experience, he wanted me to hate my, like, it's designed for me to hate my dad and to blame my dad, you know, and everything. And and to realize, like, we're all victims, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to share more, or like to for clarity, guys. I really would like, for you guys to really, like, you know share in the comment section how, like, what you're going through, and together I believe we can, come with a solution, because for me the whole purpose of these videos is for us to really, like, hold each other, and help each other to overcome, some of the issues that we face, So you can leave your, a comment in the comment section, and it's really, like, talk about these things, So for me, how I dealt about, the issue of me and my father is that I don't blame my father, I don't blame my dad, and because, like, I'm in God's program now, where my father is falling short, I just ask God, and He will provide, Now, the problem with us is that because we're not in a God's program, we look at our biological dads. Because God is, is our, our father. Yeah, we got our biological dads, but he's if they fall short, he's there. You know what I mean? So that's what I did, when my dad falls short, I just, ask God, for anything I needed, and He does provide, But if you're going to if you're not in a God's program, you don't realize that it's God, you being safe, being protected sometimes, I got made testimonies, now, looking back, I could say that, actually God was there, all this time. You know what I'm saying? So we really need to get to the God's program, and we will, like, understand and really, like, be able to deal with our issues ngendlela kungiyo, So I guess today this message is to really, like, get back to the God's program and believing that He will fight for our battles, But like I said, we need to fight alongside of Him, alongside with Him. So, with traumas, because traumas, like, a trauma is a devil. It's favorite tool to use, because remember, trauma, like, you're going to feel powerless, you're going to feel disconnected with God. And God, So just make an example for example of a young girl, growing up, Batali, batali bakhe bashona sasemncane, and now kumele akhuliswe ma-extended families. So look, my extended families, like, you know, I'm hlukubeta, you know, over like being a slave, you know, and mind you, like, you never know la political law, but la bala political, you know, but it's special bona, and yeah, na, because I'm not batali, kumele ukuthi a clean and everything, you know, and also like in school, I gotta be supported enough, you know. Like you are matripini, or like, you know, if there's kunema you know, the school programs, or I don't know what coach about bitangan, you know. Yeah, but basically, like, you know, I gotta be supported, you know what I'm saying. At the same time, you know, bomalume bamhlukubeta ngokecansi, you know. So you can see now, you know, those are many traumas, you know, a young child, you know, will face, you know what I mean? And with that traumas, like, you know, expect ukuthi lo mntwana akhula benjani, you know what I mean? And lo mntwana loyo-ke nakakhula, you feel like we talking about question lamaning, first of all, and really like to think, maybe like he was the problem, you know, and some of them, they end up killing themselves, you know, because they think they are the problems, they feel powerless, they feel like, you know, there's nothing to live for, they feel like, you know, so I'm here to tell, you know, people who going through traumas, any trauma, you know, to say the people you look at, you know, that you think they're your enemy, they're not, you know. The devil is using them, you know. He's driving away the attention, you know, for you to think they are the problems. We're all victims, you know what I'm saying? So let's just get back to God, get back to the God's program, and like I said, just leave your comments in the comment section on how, you know, you dealing with your situation, and hopefully together we will come up with a solution, and with God, you know, he'll be able to, like, you know, save us, you know. So yeah, guys, you know, like I always say, you know, I'm not an expert, you know. I'm new to the into YouTube, and you know, I'm just figuring it out. I'm just figuring out, you know. So please, you know what I mean. I think what drives me is the heart, you know, to of wanting to see change, of wanting, you know, us to really, like, not forget that God is here, guys, for all of us, and he loves us, you know. So I hope you understand my message, and we'll talk again, guys, on the next video.